Support comes from Big Y, world-class market celebrating 80 years of service to New England families. Big Y's commitment includes support of WNPR and the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze. Faith here with a welcome toast. If you like to eat, drink, and be merry, you're in the right place. It was Joan Rivers who said, "I'm Jewish, I don't work out." If God wanted us to bend over, he'd put diamonds on the floor. Please feel free to consume this show podcast in 1 bite, 2 bites, or oops, I ate the whole thing. It's great to have you joining the party on the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze, the place to have a good time. Oh, we have comfort food. I'm talking about dishes that remind us of friends, home, or family. Food that gives us a sense of well-being. That's the real definition of comfort food, and that's why it never goes out of style. We're going to celebrate comfort food on this edition of the show, featuring some ultimate comfort recipes from Saveur magazine's new cookbook, Soups and Stews. Chicken soup, yes, but with an international twist like diced preserved lemon. Vegetarian sweet potato and quinoa stew, and so much more. So get ready to cozy up with us. Plus, we have a new cocktail from our frequent contributor, Connecticut bartender Anthony DeSerio, and we've discovered a phenomenal French whiskey for winter sipping. Our recipes and information all posted at foodschmooze.org. right now. My treasured food buddy is here, senior contributor Chris Prosperi of Metro Beast Restaurant in Simsbury, Connecticut. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Faith.
We're going to get to Anthony in just a little bit. I wanted to tell you about this because it is a first. I hope you will join me for my Food Schmooze signature event. This is a chocolate-inspired champagne dinner dance, February 11th.
Coming soon.
Yes, it is. Some of the region's most talented and innovative chefs have been asked to use chocolate to enhance both savory and sweet dishes. The courses are a surprise, but I can tell you that Jacques, if you heard,
oh yeah,
Anthony,
yep.
if you heard Jacques Torres, the Mr. Chocolate from New York on the show last week, he came up with a savory dish involving cocoa nibs
the shaved cocoa
and
nibs,
salmon to give it a crusty exterior, and he said it's phenomenal.
Leeks on the bottom.
You know what?
Yum.
I think we have a chef who's going to take on his recipe. Yes.
That's so cool.
Excellent.
We have wines to match from Frederick Wildman & Sons' high-quality portfolio. A touch of dark chocolate can lift a dish into the stratosphere. So Chris made a coq au vin, which we called a choc au vin, because he added a little dark chocolate.
And what did it do?
I'm still talking about it.
You
Right?
couldn't identify it as chocolate, but it made that dish
Rich,
so
right?
unbelievable. Anthony DeSerio has created an original cocktail designed just for this event, and it involves chocolate, music to dance from the Alex Nakimovsky Band and singers. The dress is festive. So if you would like to surprise someone for Valentine's Day, you can bring a relative, a friend. You can. We have people who are buying tickets for employees
I love
who have
that
done
idea.
That's
a
a great
good
idea.
job and want to congratulate them, and that is so wonderful. Our new chocolate-inspired champagne dinner dance, February 11th, starts at 6 at the beautiful River House at Goodspeed Station in Haddam, Connecticut. Contributing chefs and restaurants include Manuel Romero of Olia, the chef at Plan B Restaurants, Jason Sobosinski of Casius, Matthew Buffard of Chamard Winery and Bistro, Prasad Chernumala of Oaxaca and Tali, David Caudil of Salute. And we want to say thanks to our sponsor, Yukon Health's Pat and Jim Calhoun Cardiology Center, with support from the River House at Goodspeed, Power Station Events, and Frederick Wildman & Sons Wine Portfolio. I hope you will join us. We'll be there to meet you and enjoy this first ever Food Schmooze chocolate-inspired dinner with you. The chefs are excited, and so are we. To reserve your tickets, go online for information to WNPRhearttoheart.org. That's WNPR hearttoheart.org. Okay, I can't wait for this.
Oh, I know it. And
This
what a
is excellent.
lineup of chefs this year,
It's,
right?
yeah, it is great.
It's a great spot. It's a beautiful location, especially for that time of year too, and for all of us to come in there. It's going to be I can't wait for this one.
Gorgeous. You're so kind, and I'm more excited about this than I have been
And
in a long
chocolate.
time.
Chocolate.
Everything chocolate. I'm just crazy about it. All right, and we're asking you to cozy up with us now to delicious soups and stews like chicken orzo with preserved lemon, quinoa, sweet potato, and cinnamon soup, Iranian chicken and walnut stew with pomegranate molasses. Make a weekend batch for family or friends because irresistible flavor and comfort is what it's all about. It's from the cookbook, Saveur, Soups and Stews. We describe a few recipes now to give you, we hope you'll have a look at the book, but this is also to give you ideas. Anthony, if you think of a cocktail to match these stews, just holler.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want people to see how you create on the fly. Chris, as we meet our Saveur Test Kitchen Director in just one second, I want to make the point that we are trying to brainstorm about ingredients and these recipes that are in the book because at home, weren't stews and soups something that every family invented on the fly based on what was around?
Basically, what's left over in your fridge is the best way to come up with soups and stews, right? It's not one of those things that you're supposed to like go shopping for. It's one of those things you put together at the last minute and use recipes like hers as a kind of guide, right, on how to do it. So you might not have raisins, but maybe you have dried cranberries. You might not have chicken, but you have leftover turkey, whatever. And you use those recipes as sort of the building of your soup and stew.
Those ingredients, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, our guest is Saveur Magazine's Test Kitchen Director, Farideh Sadeghin. Welcome to the Foochmoose Party, Farideh.
Hi, thank you so much.
Okay, Chris Prosperi just made, I think, one of the great chicken dishes in your book, and this comes out of a culture. This is the Cuban dish, Chris, the Cuban chicken stew. Farideh, this comes from, who is the woman who I've read so much about through the years, who was so famous in Cuba?
Yes, Nitza Villapol. So she's a legendary Cuban cook, and this comes directly from her, which has been passed on, through generations in Cuba. And we have the pleasure of being able to cook those recipes here, even if, now we can start to go to Cuba, but before maybe not so much. Bring those flavors into our home.
So, Chris, just whip through how easy this was to put together.
And I thought it was going to be a little more difficult when I was reading the list of ingredients, but it is so easy. You start off with chicken. She says, a 3.5 pound chicken that you cut up into quarters, or you can just I use just some chicken thighs, bone in, skin on chicken thighs, and you marinate it in fresh lime juice, fresh orange juice, and smashed garlic cloves. Yum.
I love that. I love marinating chicken and citrus.
And citrus, it does. It changes the texture, too.
And it also needs it.
Yeah,
chicken
agreed.
needs it. And then when this turns into a stew, it has already been marinated in these ingredients. So this is great. And this is what all the Latin cultures really teach us. What'd you do next, Chris?
All right, then you heat your oil in a large, pot. You remove the chicken from the marinade. You pat it dry. And then working in batches, you put it in the oil and sear it and get it nice and browned on both sides. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes. And then you take it out of the pot and put it on a plate and let it rest. And in the meantime, you take your pan, leave it on the stove, and you add thinly sliced bell pepper and onion to the pan and the juices that are in there, scraping up all those bits while you saute it for about 8 minutes. Then you deglaze it with white wine, scraping up more of those bits. And then you return the chicken to the pan. You throw in the reserved marinade, which I thought was a great touch. That citrus juice you add to the stew. And then you add potatoes, raisins, and capers and green olives.
So Cuban, that profile, right?
Tomato sauce, salt and pepper, a little bit of water. You cover it. You cook it till the chicken and the potatoes are tender. You're done.
Delicious, Farideh.
Oh my gosh,
and I think one of my favorite things is just adding in the peas at the end.
I forgot the peas. Yeah.
My freezer staples is a bag of frozen peas. It's not just for, putting on an injury to keep it, cool down. Use it to anything. I add frozen peas into many things, and it's just one of those things to always kind of
I do too.
Keep in your
and
arsenal.
It is great in soups and stews, right?
Totally.
And I like your idea. It is so easy to keep frozen peas. I do this. So just for fun, Anthony, you hear that Cuban profile of raisins and garlic and citrus juices. How does a mind like yours think when you hear a stew like that? What cocktail comes into your mind?
I immediately think Havana Club 7-year rum. Right out of the gate, if you can get it up here, which you can't yet. But
Rum do you like?
It's a dark. So I'm thinking dark rum, and with those citrus notes. We have the recipe online already with the rum Hatton that we did, the Manhattan with rum.
That sounds so good.
And using port instead, so the port will pick up those raisin notes and it'll blend really well with those citruses that you mentioned too. So you can even mull it down and make it warm. So a nice warm mulled rum Manhattan. While you're having that stick to your ribs, just Cuban, that's all over the place.
Okay.
I like it.
So you see how this works, Farideh?
Yes, I'm into it.
Well, because you're in the test kitchen at Saveur, and you've been so intimately involved with all the recipes in this book. I can't imagine testing these, and what a good time that must be. And
totally. We've been around for about 21 years now. So a lot of them are, recipes we've worked with before, and then we developed a lot of new ones. Sure, we have, huge kind of backlog of recipes, but filling in the holes of places that we haven't been, or maybe we didn't get to cover certain areas the way we wanted to. So it was kind of fun to fill in the blanks and make a book that really is a composite of soups and stews, that really speak to your soul.
Nice. Excellent. Let's begin with Tunisian short rib and meatball stew. Ooh. This is for the meat lover in the house. Oh. This was surprising to me when I saw that you had both meatballs and short ribs in the same stew.
I think that doing meatballs and short ribs is kind of a fun thing. Like short ribs, you really cook it down and get it to the point where the meat's kind of falling off as well. In meatballs, why not, right?
I'm with you there.
I'm just so surprised that this is a Tunisian dish. I hadn't imagined that this would be big. It involves ground chuck and pepper and cumin, cilantro, parsley, salt, paprika, cinnamon, and egg, of course, to hold those meatballs together. And then you have the short ribs. That cinnamon in there, that's such a Tunisian touch, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
It is. Cinnamon, it's used in a lot of different stews in this book, but just even around the world. It's really kind of fascinating to follow even the spice routes around the world and see where everything ends up.
That's very cool.
The flavors on this are good. And the beans in this, again, like you were saying before, Chris, using this book as kind of a foundation for making your own recipes. Beans is one of those other canned things
staples,
something. Yeah, or dried beans. Just remember to soak them the night before. Or you can also do a quick soak, though. I don't know if you guys ever do that.
Yeah, hot water, right? Or boiling water.
Yeah,
and
totally. Just boil them and let it sit for like an hour, and they're good to go.
Yeah.
It's a great
trick.
Oh, that's a good trick. Yeah. This is Farideh Sadeghin, and she is head of the test kitchen for Saveur magazine. And this book, Soups and Stews, based on their many years of collecting these from around the world. So if you have people coming over, you want to do a party dish, if you have things in the freezer or the refrigerator and you want to create a stew out of your own mind, we are using this as a way for you to brainstorm, or you can, of course, we have 3 of the recipes on our site right now and the cocktail at foodschmooze.org. Schmooze spelled like school, S-C-H, foodschmooze.org. I can imagine, Anthony, people coming into the house.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a stew like one of these on. What do you hear more that are coming? Or a soup.
Yeah.
And people saying, wow, this is kind of a twist on these classics that I know.
Right.
Except for these cultures, they are classics.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like she was saying about the spices, and just I could just imagine all those aromas and this, everything from around the world. That's what I do with cocktails.
This is so
it's historic.
Yes, exactly. So, Farideh, how about, I love Thai coconut flavors.
Oof.
Thinking about this Thai coconut and chicken soup.
Yes. For this time of year when it's cold and you kind of want to transport yourself to Southeast Asia, this is the dish to do it. And you can make the stock for this ahead of time. It's basically stock, some cilantro, lime leaves, lemongrass, ginger, and you can make that, strain it, and keep that in your freezer and pull it out whenever you want, and then add the other ingredients to it.
That's a great idea. I love making stocks ahead of time and freezing them. And that way, when you have that last minute kind of whim to make a soup or a stew, your big part is done.
Of course, it has lime leaves. If you can get them, you can now buy these in the international aisle in just about any supermarket. Lemongrass, you can get that there too. Ginger and mushrooms and a chili and a chicken breast and a little brown sugar and coconut milk. It's that fresh lime juice against the coconut that makes this great. A touch of fish sauce. You don't even know it's there, but it does something. Cherry tomatoes, scallions. This is quite a stew. One of my favorite flavor profiles.
What I would do for this soup as well is add fish to it instead of chicken.
Ooh, shrimp,
Right?
scallops.
Right? Shrimp.
Yeah,
Stick to
swordfish
seafood. Make it a
chunks.
really seafood kind of heavy with the coconut and the
scallops.
lime. It would be amazing.
Okay, make it your own, right? We love that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break right now, and we hope you'll support your local food growers and food makers. And for on-demand podcast delivery of the Food Schmooze Party every week to find terrific food, wine, cocktails, restaurants, hot topics, our fun short streaming videos, and recipes we feature, including the soups and stews that are there right now. We are always online talking with you at foodschmooze.org. More delicious conversation after a quick break.
Life is a minestrone, served up with Parmesan cheese. Yes, there's a cold lasagna, suspended in deep freeze. Love is the fire of flame and brandy.
Okay, hope that first bite of the Food Schmooze felt like a hot biscuit with butter coming your way. Feel free to tell your food-loving friends worldwide they can enjoy the show and our online site at foodschmooze.org. Here's your second bite.
Beans and cornbread, beans and cornbread, beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread had a fight. Beans knocked cornbread out of sight. Cornbread said, now that's all right. Meet me on the corner tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. That's what Beans said to cornbread.
We have a free podcast for you, meaning you'll never miss a drop of pleasure. Just sign up for it once at our site, and we'll automatically send you our show every week so you can listen on your schedule. Also, discover our delicious curated food wine events, cocktail recommendations. We love talking with you, so stop by often and say hi. We're always online at foodschmooze.org. I'm with my treasured food buddy, Chris Prosperi of Metro Beast Restaurant in Simsbury, Connecticut, and our chief cocktail contributor, Anthony DeSerio. We have on the line Farideh Sadeghin, who is director of the Saveur magazine Test Kitchen and was very much in charge of putting together testing and trying. That's why we're talking to her. All these soups and stews in this new cookbook, Saveur Soups and Stews. We have information about the book, excerpts, a few of the recipes online right now at our site. Farideh, a chicken soup with orzo and one of my favorite ingredients, I buy these by the gallon, preserved lemon.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
You should make some too.
Yeah, we used to have a Moroccan pastry chef that made them, and he'd take a jar and put them under the sink, and they'd sit down there for about a week or so. And they
They're
were
so
good.
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to tell you that I fail when I try to make preserved lemons. I don't know what it is.
We'll have to make them together.
Just add vodka.
Okay.
Make some limoncello instead.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
So think about this. This is extra virgin olive oil, onion, coriander, cumin, garlic, ginger, cinnamon, orzo pasta, the chicken breasts, and some parsley, and then the rind of a preserved lemon that you thinly slice.
Yum.
And in this 20 minutes, this thing comes together. It's really
It's
terrific.
one of the most, really effortless recipes that's in this book. Again, could use any pasta. A small one for this one works really nicely, but you could even use spaghetti or something. But it adds a bit of hardiness to this clear broth and, really makes it one of those comfort classics, like chicken soup for the soul, essentially.
I seem to be a little obsessed with chicken here, and I'm sorry, but I'm kind of stuck on it. I don't know why. It seems that every time I was turning a page, there was another chicken one that I really liked. So bear with me. Here is a recipe for Iranian chicken and walnut stew. This
I love those
sounds
flavor
so good to me.
profiles.
We haven't made this. But the chicken breast, turmeric, onion, chopped spinach, walnuts, And pomegranate molasses, you can get it in
love that.
any health food store and sometimes in every supermarket in the international aisle. A little sugar and you make some basmati rice. Tell me about how this tastes. Is this a great one?
Oh my God, it's so good. I'm actually half Persian, and we grew up with this dish. And
nice.
it is one of just my favorite things. And I had to admit, growing up, I didn't initially like it. I didn't even taste it. I refused. I don't know why. Kids are kids, and we, But and when I grew up and I made it myself at home, and I told my dad about it. He goes, "You realize that that's the dish you never ate as a child?" And I was like, "I have no idea why. I was missing out this whole time." It has that nice kind of sweetness with the pomegranate and then the walnut. It's a beautiful dish and sings the praises, I think, of the Persian culture.
There is something about, you might imagine regular molasses and say, really? How would that be in a stew? This is a whole other thing. Pomegranate molasses.
I
It
love
has
That's a completely
sweet and
different animal.
sour thing. Just amazing. So, do you have a cocktail in mind?
Oh, I'm
or-
sure I could just come up with something. I was just thinking of
I
taking
bet you would make great in
I
cocktails.
was thinking of taking the pomegranate molasses and I would reduce that down with a little bit of water and add some of that turmeric to it and make a syrup and
that'd be
then
healthy too.
Maybe either like a blended scotch or just like a nice quality vodka with that, maybe just a touch of soda.
That's
So just a nice fizz with that pomegranate and those spices in there and just let that shine right through.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I love that. That sounds perfect.
How about Maine shrimp chowder? This is a great thing to make in the wintertime. When you want something hearty, but and rich, but light at the same time, and shrimp feels that way. And this has some bacon in it and some potatoes and cream.
And the good thing about this one, like you said, it's lighter because there's no flour. So it's thickened with the help of the potatoes, add that starchiness to it. But it is, yes, rich with the cream, but lighter without the flour. So for all you celiacs out there.
Yeah, I like brothier chowders. I do. Even in the winter, I like the brothy chowders.
Now, Chris and I, Farideh, have a thing about not turning to flour as our thickener all the time. And we prefer cornstarch and water to make that little slurry. You cannot taste it. And
It's lighter.
for people who are gluten-free, it really works out.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Very simple to use too, right?
I'm not saying you need it in your chowder because you've got potatoes in this, but you could if you're making another
totally
super stew.
could.
Yeah, and you add it at the end so you can really be in control of your viscosity, right? And how thick or thin you make it.
Exactly.
Which is why I
And
like
with this
using it, too.
recipe, you're making actually your own shrimp stock to begin with. You're using shell and head-on shrimp and then using those, kind of crushing them up and making your own stock. And it makes quite a bit of stock that you can freeze. So if you were to perhaps thicken it too much at the end, because you're only using 3 cups of the stock initially, you could use some of that stock, to
Thin
help.
it back down.
Thin it back a bit.
And let me get your take on this, Farideh. You're suggesting that people go to the fish market and say, "Can I have the heads that you might be throwing away? I want to use them for stock." You could do that. You can usually buy fish stock in your market. If you don't have access to what we're talking about, what I do is just make regular shell-on shrimp without the heads. I save the shells in the freezer, and then I boil them down, and it makes its own little stock, and that's a good backup, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And I've got one even easier because I'm the lazy chef. I just use the bottled clam juice that you get in the supermarket and, thin it with a little bit of water. Whenever I'm making a chowder, a fish chowder, or a fish soup, that's what I do instead of making my own stock. The little bottles of
Yeah, I
clam
do.
juice, just
They're
mix
good.
it 50-50 with water and use that as your broth.
And that's
because
not too
And it's
salty.
nice briny
No, you
flavor,
mix it.
too.
You mix it 50-50 with water, right? So you use one bottle of the clam juice, and then you fill that with water, and you put that in the pot, and it
That's
works
a
out perfectly.
great
And
idea.
yeah, I don't know. I love making my own stocks at the restaurant, but when I'm at home, I don't know. It just something switches in my head, and I'm like, stock? Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I'm with Anthony DeSerio, our cocktail guy, our senior contributor, Chris Prosperi, and Farideh Sadeghin, who is test kitchen director at Saveur magazine, a magazine I like so much. All right, we did the kind of lighter version with the shrimp chowder. Now we're going to go full bore.
Uh-oh.
Beer cheese soup.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Wait, is football season still
Here
going?
we go.
Yes,
Exactly.
it is.
This is what you want for Super Bowl.
Exactly.
What is it, February 7th or
Yeah, it's
something?
coming soon.
Coming soon.
And in the photograph, you have some blue cheese, of all things, sprinkled on top of this.
wow.
So gorgonzola, you know. So
Yes.
I just burst out laughing when I saw this, and I thought, this looks good. This
Yeah.
is butter and shallots and carrot and onion, vegetable stock, milk, caraway seeds, sharp cheddar, ale, crumbled gorgonzola on top, and crusty bread. So this, in a
I mean,
way,
this is rich.
this
You
is
dip
like
the bread in it, and the
fondue.
bread just gets coated with it, right?
Totally. And you could, like you
the
said,
best part.
fondue, you could add less stock to this and make it into more of like a dip and
Oh
a
my
fondue.
God, yes.
You know, because it might be too rich to have a full bowl of it yourself, but make into a dip. It's perfectly acceptable.
Pretzels, right? The big
Yeah.
pretzel rods.
Or in the
dip
bread
that
bowl.
in there.
Or in the bread bowl itself.
Yes.
How about if we go the other way? How could you make it less thick and, you know, where you could eat a whole bowl of this?
Add
What,
more
what would
beer.
you do? More beer?
more
No.
beer? More beer, a little more stock.
You know, would you add more vegetable stock or could you add chicken stock? What would
Yeah.
be a way?
I would definitely add a bit more stock and then have maybe a bit more beer on the side for yourself to drink with it.
Always have more beer.
Always have more beer.
Always.
So can I ask a quick question? Favorite broth, canned broth or boxed broth? Do you have one?
Oh, for me,
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
you
if I
went
have
to-
a favorite one.
Because there are a lot out there now, right? That are
There
decent.
are a lot. I have to say, I do shop at Whole Foods a lot. I really like the 365 brand.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't use even the low sodium ones, but always taste your broth no matter what, because sometimes it's not flavored very well or it's too salty. So you just want to make sure you don't over salt.
Yeah. And you
because
can
that
cut
can
them
be a
with
problem.
water if they are, right?
Can I do something? I want, because I don't want to run out of time, I want to give people, this is a brainstorming session. We're also telling you about Saveur Soups and Stews, this cookbook that has come out. 3 of the recipes are on our site, foodschmooze.org. If you have a way of doing a soup at your house, a favorite soup, we would love to hear that from you because you're going to inspire other people on Facebook. We'd like to have a conversation with you there. So visit us at Faith Middleton Food Schmooze, and let's get a conversation going about that.
What your favorite soup is to make, right? This time of year.
When I was growing up, Farideh and Chris and Anthony, my mother made a vegetable soup, and none of us in the family have ever been able to duplicate it. We don't know what she did. It had a tomato base, and it had, canned tomatoes, nothing fresh, and all kinds of vegetables, but it was so amazing. And so I'm very interested in what people do at home.
Didn't we all have favorite soups when we were a kid? My mom is Austrian, so she made a chicken broth with these dumplings, these Austrian
Ooh, I love
dumplings. And
dumplings.
oh my
dumplings
God,
are
they were
good.
so, it was called knödel, and oh my gosh, you could
What's
just
not to like about dumplings?
and you just eat a big one, almost like a matzo ball in your soup. Oh my God, so good.
Only
Yes.
better.
Yeah, only better. Yeah.
Even what I was just saying earlier during the break, to this day in my house, there's always soup or a stew. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You will find if one's getting empty, Dad's got another one going.
Here I'm making a joke about only better, somehow thinking the dumplings would be better than matzo balls.
Matzo
Maybe
balls are
not.
pretty damn good.
Maybe not. I mean, what's the difference between matzo balls and regular dumplings?
The flour that they the matzah meal instead of the flour.
So really pretty
basically.
much the
Yeah,
same.
basically,
Okay,
yeah.
that's say I just learned something. There's a cream. I want to cruise through some of these so we can brainstorm with you. A cream of roasted mushroom soup. The trick with this one that you could do at home if you don't happen to have the book yet, you could either fry or roast some mushrooms in the oven, right, Farideh?
Totally. And roasting definitely, develops a lot more flavor. It's the same when if you're making your own chicken stock or beef broth or whatever, roasting the bones develops a lot more flavor. So that's what we do here with the mushrooms. We're also using dried porcini mushrooms, and a little bit of the liquid that you're soaking those in goes back into the stock,
Makes a great
into the
broth.
soup. Wow. Yeah, it makes a really nice broth. It has that boost of umami to it, and it really adds, it's a lot of different layers of flavor with all the different ways you're cooking the mushrooms.
Yeah, there's a spice company called Spice Mill in Connecticut, and they
Mm-hmm.
have a porcini powder they sell to the public, and I'm addicted to it. And it's
That would be great
it's
in
just
this.
powdered porcini, and I use it in all my vegetable broths now. Just a little bit. It adds that, like you said, umami, that depth of flavor. And it's not very expensive.
When do you add it, Chris?
You
When
add
you're-
it. It doesn't matter. You just add it in the beginning, at the end. It just sort of flavors the broth.
And you just stir it in and
It's
it
just
dissolves?
powder, and it just dissolves. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
my
it's a
favorite
great
word is
one.
umami. I
Yeah.
love umami. Anything savory. You know, like Faith and I will be having our boulevardiers with something like that.
You got to have it right in
Nice.
your,
You have
your
the
cocktail.
the Negroni with bourbon instead, with something like that.
With roasted mushroom soup, what would you do?
Because we'd have the
We have a Negroni?
Yeah, well, we'd have a Negroni, except we'll take the gin out and we'll put either rye or bourbon in. So you have those spice notes from the rye with our sweet vermouth and the like the Campari. Or maybe an
Against
Aperol.
mushrooms?
Yeah, because you'll
I
have
would
that. You'll
never have thought
you'll
of
have
that.
that savory note, or even I would even go out of the box and use maybe a mezcal or a nice peaty scotch, so you get that smokiness with the
Ooh, I love
mushrooms.
it.
Right?
Nice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I could really see doing like a mezcal in there, which is
Wow.
a smoky agave-based spirit.
Yeah. What's the difference between mezcal and regular tequila?
Well, tequila has to be aged. Well, the piña for tequilas have to be aged at least 8 years in Guadalajara or Jalisco, and mezcal needs to be aged in the town of Oaxaca. So it's a completely different regions, terroirs, age restrictions, and
Same
a lot of
plant?
It is the agave plant, but there's just different like age regulations as to how long the tequila has to grow or the agave has to grow before it can be harvested and where
Okay.
it can be grown.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So also in Saveur soups and stews, we have escarole, sausage, and cannelli bean stew. It's an Italian
That's
classic.
what right out of
That's probably
Anthony's
it's probably in my refrigerator right now.
Yes.
Doesn't
Classic Italian, right?
It just feels
It is so
inspiring.
classic. Escarole is one of those things that people often shy away from, those bitter, leafy greens, but I love it and cooked down in this. And what we do also, not only are you garnishing this with grated pecorino romano, you're adding in some thinly sliced pecorino romano and cooking it with that. And so it kind of adds like a creaminess to it and adds a nice balance of that bitterness from
we have a
the
trick
escarole.
in our kitchen that we take the rind of our cheeses and we throw them in a pot of water and make a broth out of them. And
Yes.
that makes great soup
Wow.
and stews.
Yeah, never throw away your Parmesan cheese
No,
rinds or
never.
anything.
Just put them
No.
in a little thing of cold water, bring it up to a simmer it for like 15, 20 minutes, turn it off and strain it.
You could use that broth for this dish.
Yeah, totally.
Does anyone do what I do? I have like, so many rinds in my refrigerator, and I never actually put them in anything. I just have like a warehouse.
Like
I just don't
use them as
use
door
them. I
stops
think,
or
oh,
to
yeah.
open a door, like the wedge underneath the door to keep it
I
open.
need to save this, I say to myself.
No, put 'em in.
because
Always
this
get a
is
pet
going to make
mouse.
something great, and I never use it.
And it doesn't matter. All kinds of different ones. We put them all together. Like as we
You
have 4 or
do?
5 different types of cheese hard cheeses that have that kind of rind.
You put them in.
Put them all in a pot of water, cold water. Bring it up to a simmer it for like a half hour, 45 minutes. Take it off, strain it, and you're done.
and then
And
we're
that stuff-
using that as our cooking base.
And you'll see also that there'll be when you refrigerate it, there'll be a layer of hard fat on the top, and you can take that and cook your vegetables in it.
So what we do, Massimo Bottura came in to the test kitchen with us, and we did that exact thing. We made risotto with the broth, and then you're adding the cream from the top back into the risotto, folding it at the end
Yeah.
instead of doing
wow.
like butter. or cream.
Goodness.
Yeah.
It's so decadent,
Yeah,
and
we fight
the
over
best.
that. We fight over that top layer because
believe
it's
it.
not a lot. It's a little bit, but boy, you put that in. Like you said, you fold it into something at the end, or even put it in potatoes when you mash it.
Oh yes,
My sister makes mac and cheese with those.
Yeah,
I've got an idea. What if we brought the show to Farideh Sadeghin in the test kitchen at Saveur, and we all cooked together and talked food and
love it.
what
Oh,
the
that'd
how
be a
they're.
lot of fun.
What do you think?
that would be
Farideh?
so fun. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to. I invite you for sure to come in. That'd be
What
great.
fun! We'll do. All right, so that's on the
Food
agenda.
schmooze on the road.
Trip.
We would
road
eat
trip.
well.
Okay,
Wait till you see the bar on the bus.
very.
I used to see a bar above my desk.
Very quickly, I want to say for vegetarians, I like this. I love quinoa. So we've got quinoa and sweet potato soup with olive oil, red onion, cumin, red chili flakes. That touch I love because this kind of soup with sweet potatoes always needs a little opposition.
Totally.
Cinnamon, coriander, garlic, ginger, the sweet potatoes, vegetable stock, chopped kale, the quinoa, almond butter. There's where
That's
your
a
touch.
good one,
Wow.
right?
Ah,
I
that
love
was-
the almond butter at the end. It's so interesting, just something that you
Wow.
don't really expect. It adds that nutty richness to it.
We
I
have
think
this
it's a little
recipe.
too, right?
This recipe's online at
that's a good one.
foodschmooze.org. Farideh, I have loved talking with you. I love your enthusiasm for food and your knowledge, too. I can see how talented you are. That's why we want to come and see you. Thank you so much. Farideh Sadeghin, director of the Test Kitchen at Saveur magazine offices in New York. And we are going to take a short break now. And on the other side of this, we're going to tell you about our cocktail discovery. Anthony's got a new cocktail for you. And also, we have a French whiskey that is to die for. Oh, my goodness.
It's incredible.
All right. This is the Food Schmooze Party, offering the richness of life, coming to you in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New York, including Westchester County, the East End of Long Island, the Hamptons. Of course, the senior producer is Robin Doyen Aiken. And to hear our show on WNPR, it airs Thursdays at 3, Saturdays at noon. And we'll be right back.
Boiled up a pot of chicken soup and swallowed it away. Alack-a-day, oh, woe, oy vey.
One more mouth-watering bite of the Food Schmooze. Ready? Here's something great to know about. Sign up for the app called NPR One. Just download it from the iPhone App Store or your Android device, and once you do, you can set WNPR as your local station. Couldn't be easier. Download the free app, NPR One, and start listening. Let's party on. More Food Schmooze. This is the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze Party. I'm with my food buddies, Chris Prosperi of Metro Beast Restaurant in Simsbury, Connecticut, our cocktail contributor, the chief, Anthony DeSerio. And we are so excited. By the way, I don't know about you, I'm so into soups and stews now that I just want to race out of here, except it's cocktail time, and that makes me happy. We wanted to tell you for that last segment about what Cooks Illustrated test panel found was the best beef bouillon base.
Awesome.
Really?
It is, they say, better than bouillon in the jar on
I've
the
seen
shelf.
that. Sure.
And it's a good price. They think it has a real beefy taste, but for flavor, they like this the best. Better than bouillon, beef base, and you could use it in your soups and stews to beef things up, as we say. All right, here we go. We're going to a cocktail and our new whiskey discovery, which is called Bastille. Thanks to Anthony DeSerio. It's a French whiskey. I couldn't believe how delicious this was. So we're going to hear about a new cocktail he's designed. This is on our website. You can make this at home too, this recipe, foodschmooze.org. And also we're going to talk with the master distiller at Bastille to find out what this is all about and how they made such a great whiskey.
Yeah,
Anthony,
it's a stunning product. It really is. And when we were doing soups and stews, I immediately think of my favorite place, which is New Orleans. And then to be incorporating French whiskey, well, how do you not go to the French Quarter? And French Quarter, also known as Veau Carré. And Veau Carré is a 1930s cocktail that was invented at the Hotel Monteleone, my favorite hotel, and pretty much every bartender in the country's favorite hotel, especially in July when we all descend down there for Tales of the Cocktail. And I always love to belly up to the bar there and have a Veau Carré, where it was invented in the 1930s by a gentleman named Bourgeron. And it's just 3-ingredient cocktail, and we're going to start off with our Bastille whiskey.
We're going to make this right here.
We're going to make it right now. So we've got everything we need.
The Bastille whiskey.
It's a beautiful bottle.
Comes in a square glass bottle with beautiful lines. It's simple, it's elegant. So, Anthony, you've just poured
3/4 of an ounce of the whiskey.
Okay. So, in the recipe, don't worry about it because the recipe is online.
And it's extremely simple.
Now, in comes a
comes
little
cognac
bit of...
or brandy, 3/4 of an ounce. So, this is all equal parts, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4.
So, whiskey plus
cognac.
Plus cognac.
Or brandy.
Or brandy.
That's interesting. And now, why do you put those two together?
It's how it was designed, and it's been around since the 30s, so I'm not even going to question it. This is a classic cocktail. This is the original recipe.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now what's going in?
Now we're going to do our sweet vermouth.
Okay. And say the name of this cocktail again.
Veau Carré. It means
Veau?
French quarter.
That's so
I
cool.
see.
Because
Veau Carré. Oh, are you
Okay,
putting
so-
something else in?
Yeah, we're going to put out a couple more things in. So now we're going to have Peychaud's bitters, which
Okay.
is a little more anise note. And we're also going to use our Angostura bitters.
So it gets both bitters.
So you
Two
get the, so
bitters.
you're going to get these the baking spices from the Angostura and
Yeah.
a little bit of the anise notes from the Peychaud. So we're just only going to use 2 dashes of each. If you don't have both, you don't need to use both. You
So
can
just
use
go with one.
one.
Okay, and most people have the Angostura.
Yes.
Peychaud's you use as just a slightly different flavor profile. If you're going to have
Yes,
just
yes.
one in your house, is one...
Oh, Angostura all
Yeah,
the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the
Industry
one
standard.
you can buy that in the grocery store. It's considered a condiment.
Okay, so everything is in your shaker,
And then
and this
we're
is...
just going to do a bar spoon of Benedictine, which is
we're not done.
No, we're lovers of chartreuse here, so this is also a French liqueur with a lot of different botanicals and a honey note to it.
Benedictine
Benedictine.
makes the medicine go down.
There
Okay,
you go.
with your bar spoon, so you're
So
not
no,
shaking, we're
no,
stirring.
because we have all spirits. So when it's all spirits, you always stir.
Oh,
Because
I
you
didn't
just
know that. Very nice.
So we're gonna get that nice and chilled and diluted. We usually do about 30 revolutions, as my friend Dale DeGroff says. And now we're just gonna strain that out into our glass, and we are ready to
Okay,
go.
I can't wait. Now, while you're pouring that, I would like to bring in Charles Decor. He is master distiller of this whiskey Bastille that I've been describing to you that is so beautiful. I should say Charles Decor. Welcome to the Poochmoose.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about my creation here.
Well, I'm just going to sip the cocktail that Veau Carré.
Veau Carré.
Oh my goodness.
Huh?
I'd be on a plane to New Orleans
Let's go.
if you didn't make this. This is a great recipe.
It's-
What a great!
it's a beautiful
with
cocktail.
beautiful ingredients.
All those different smells and tastes, right?
And the
Mr.
spices
Decor, what is happening at Bastille whiskey that it has such an elegant flavor? It's like the finest cognac. Go ahead.
Well, first, I grew up in a vineyard, and my family distilled cognac, the spirit cognac, in the little town of Cognac, where I was born, and I always, saw my family distilling. So I was distilling the first time when I was 8, and my family distilled for 150 years. We distill for Hennessy and Martel and so on. And my grandmother is Irish, so I decided, to spend some time in Ireland to discover, how they work, how they distill, what type of pot still they use, and came back in France and decided with my godfather, my uncle, Jean-Marc Decour, to come up with something different, not to copy the Scotch, not to copy the Irish or the fantastic bourbon, but to express our know-how. And the alembic pot still that's very famous in the area of Cognac to distill this particular whiskey. And we use as well, the magic happens in a cask, so we use the most expensive wood, the Limousin oak cask.
Limousine oak.
Yes, usually it's reserved for the aging process of cognacs or Bordeaux wines.
Yeah, all the Bordeaux are aged in them.
I'm so dazzled by the conversation and dazzled by this cocktail. It's one of the best cocktails I've ever had. No wonder this is a classic.
Oh,
Why
yes.
did this disappear?
It's down there and alive and well.
I suspect that because there is such a high-level whiskey in here, this is another thing that really sends this up a notch.
Yeah, and the Bastille
So-
plays very well against this too, with the spice notes and the stone fruit that are in the flavor profile.
It's really the talent of Anthony as well. Anthony is a genius at making cocktails.
Yeah, we're lucky to have him. Mr. Decor, I can hear that your whole background is in this, but when you say that you didn't want to duplicate what already exists and wanted to do what you know how to do, how would you describe what that is? If someone said, what kind of whiskey is this? I would say this is an elegant cognac.
It's a whiskey, Whiskey is made out of grains, and we are lucky enough to have the finest grains in France. We select the grains around the area of Paris. It's called La Plaine de la Beauce. The quality, really, of the soil, having a lot of clay, provides the finest grains in Europe. And we use as well the pure quality of water that arrives from the Pyrenean mountains at the border of Spain. But really, the magic happens in a cask. And this fantastic wood, the Limousin oak cask, previously aging some cognac in the barrels that I bought, as well as some Sauterne white wine. So to describe Bastille, this is really something unique. It's a category by itself. It's halfway in between the bourbon, in the sense that it's very smooth. There is no burn, no bite. And then at the end, you get some spices and a little bit of smoke.
You have
That reminds me-
described it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a cross between bourbon and whiskey. There is no bite, yet there is a little smoke and spice at the end. That is
That
a
you don't get in bourbon.
perfect description. Of course, the barrels do their magic. I hear that the ingredients are important, but as in winemaking, the recipe master, that would be you, must know when to stop with one thing or another, what to add, what not to add, how to keep it pure, when aging it should be stopped because it's carrying it into a new territory. How do you make those decisions?
Well, really the blending is an art. You combine, blend together to find out the hint that you're looking for. And it takes time. And then it's all about the aging. And we are lucky enough to be in southwest of France. So you understand that it's warmer than in Ireland or Scotland. And we have as well, we are close to the Atlantic Ocean. So we have this high level of humidity, which is very helpful for the aging process.
This is such an interesting description to hear about humidity and climate with regard to whiskey, because I have to tell you, my impression is that it's a bunch of giant distilling machines and that this is more chemistry than art. Now, of course, I don't mean that about a fine cognac or something. When I taste yours, I think, what's this? Now I see that there is an art to this, just like...
Winemaking, right?
Yeah. This isn't just science. This is science and art, just like medicine is an art.
And love.
Correct. So we were lucky to have 94 points, from the Beverage Tasting Institute. They say one word, exceptional. And this is really the Parker of the spirit, the Beverage Tasting Institute.
Yes.
As well, we've been rated the Whiskey of the Year by the New York International Spirit Competition.
I didn't know that.
So
we have good taste, don't we?
I bring some good stuff in. I know.
Congratulations to you, and I think well-deserved. Not that I have tasted every cognac, but I certainly have never tasted a whiskey like this.
No,
this is really
and I'm not a big whiskey drinker.
extraordinary.
You know that, right?
Anthony, what would this retail for a bottle? Or Mr. Docor?
$35
Yes.
retail price.
And the distributor is...
Worldwide Wines.
Worldwide. Okay, well, that is...
You can find online, you can look at our website, which is www.bastillewhiskey.com.
Okay.
BASTILLE-WHISKY.
As we say, storm the Bastille. That's how
Storm
you
the
remember.
Bastille.
Storm
So,
the
Charles, one question I never actually got to ask you when we were out on the road that one wonderful winter day, and I'm not even going to tell you that the tires in the back of my car were bald and we almost died. Now, the oak age, the Limousine oak, is that used at all or is that brand new?
No, it's used.
So they've been seasoned.
Yes, they've been used before. Usually an average of 5 years minimum to get, some powerful profile.
People who sell these aged barrels for other people like you, it's probably more expensive to buy these. That's an art in itself. It's more expensive to buy these barrels as they've been aged. Is that right? Is that how it works?
Yes, and it's not easy to find some. It's getting rarer. So, we are lucky to have enough for the generations to come, hopefully.
It is amazing how creative we are as human beings. I remember being in France leading a food and wine tour there, and we went to the great barrel toasting place. It begins with a T. Is it Tonnelier? I'm sorry, I can't remember, but a very well-known barrel toasting. They have the most elegant barrels in the wine industry, and people want them because they're magnificent, the way they toast the barrel, which adds a certain flavor to the wine. And here we are now. Imagine humans thinking of this. Now here we are in the whiskey realm hearing about...
There's so many different pieces, right? Without the barrels, without the still, without the farmers growing the grains, like he said in that part of France.
And Mr. Docor, I'm so glad you would explain all this to us, because it makes this cocktail by itself, independent of anything, is so delicious. Your whiskey I've tasted by itself, and that's what started all this. I thought it was just a knockout. To know the stories you're telling is to make this experience so much better.
Well, thank you so much once again. I'm just going to add that we are actually introducing the single malts. So what you're trying now is the blend, and we're extending the portfolio with the single malts, and hopefully at the end of this year, 3 different types of single cask. So stay tuned.
Well, what would that
Faith wants those.
No, no. What would that do? If you go from this? If this is the blend, how will it change if it's a single malt?
So, well, the single malt is 100%, malted barley, and we use the same wood, the Limousin oak cask, but different second cask. So it was aging, some cognac before, some Sauterne, some Burgundy, and some sherry wine from Spain. Wow. So you're going to have a unique combination. What we do with Jean-Marc and myself, we really don't want to copy anyone. We bring something different. So please try. You're going to see that this is very delicate, a little bit more smoky, and definitely divine.
Let me ask you quickly. I think we're out of time, but I hope you'll join us again sometime because I'd like to know what you think about using high-end spirits in cocktails. Is it a sin, and from your point of view, is it a great idea? It certainly has made this an exquisite experience. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Ducour.
Thank you, my friend.
And information online about Bastille whiskey, and we have Anthony DeSerio's cocktail. Incredible. We're on WNPR Thursdays at 3, Saturdays at noon. Weekdays, listen for my 60-second food schmoozes. Join the conversation with us. We're always up for a good time online at foodschmooze.org and on Facebook for Soups and Stews. In New Haven, I'm Faith Middleton.
Everybody eats when they come to mind.
This is the place to enjoy the richness of life, and I have to say, sharing our local and national discoveries with you makes me want to get up in the morning. The gang and I hope you'll come back soon and often.